Support for Michigan Public comes from the University of Michigan's Look to Michigan campaign, working towards a stronger, more connected Michigan, championing sustainability, global citizenship, and educational opportunity. More information at looktomichigan.umich.edu.
Hey friend, April Baer here, and I want to tell you about Points North. It's a podcast that's all about the Great Lakes region. These episodes, they are like movies for your ears. They tell stories such as the one-time Congress designated Lake Champlain in Vermont as the 6th Great Lake.
To add a little lake that's 1/16 the size of the smallest Great Lake is just crazy.
Hear that story and more when you subscribe to Points North. You'll find it any place you listen to podcasts. Hi, I'm April Baer, and this is On Hand, a podcast answering your questions about things that make Michigan unique. One of those things is that we have so many black squirrels. Today we're going to hear some of your stories about squirrels in the neighborhood. As we learned last week, Michigan is part of a kind of Great Lakes black squirrel belt.
The hot spot is around the Great Lakes region and into kind of southern Ontario, and more so on the eastern part of that Great Lakes region. So if you move into Wisconsin and northern Wisconsin, they're not as common.
That is biologist Brad Cosentino, one of the lead scientists on a project called Squirrel Mapper. He's using citizen science data on coat color to map evolution for eastern gray squirrels. Now, even Brad would tell you that collecting data for this field can be squirrely because black squirrels stand out. We get excited when we see them. And so they may be overreported by citizen scientists. But black squirrels do feel special. It turns out black is not the only unique coat color you'll find on squirrels in Michigan.
He's super cute. It looks like he's like Snow White, but the tail, it's just like any of the other fox squirrels in the neighborhood. Kind of a cinnamon brown and tan red. So very unique.
We got emails from a couple of listeners about a furry neighbor they call White Squirrel. I'm going to turn things over to producer April Van Buren and our intrepid squirrel-loving listeners for today's story.
I'm John Flory.
And I'm Teri Flory.
John and Teri live in Wyoming, Michigan, just outside of Grand Rapids. And their neighborhood is kind of squirrel central, thanks to an abundance of old oak trees.
It wasn't long after we moved in that we found out the neighborhood is actually called Sherwood Forest.
And White Squirrel was one of Sherwood Forest's most famous inhabitants.
I thought he was super cute because he doesn't have the pink eyes like an albino. Like he has just regular little squirrel eyes and then that tail. And he's just so unique. Like I feel like everybody in this neighborhood knew about White Squirrel.
I would say he was an alpha male. He was, defender of his territory. When other males would come around, they wouldn't stick around very long. He must have had a pretty good reputation as a fighter from the get-go. And always a ladies' man. One time I was in the backyard and I saw a white squirrel chasing another squirrel around, and I thought it was another male, but it wasn't. It was a female because they were having a romantic encounter, let's call it.
Some of the other squirrel friends we had here, they made regular visits to our porch to get peanuts, and they would even kind of knock on the window, like to say, "Hey, I'm out here."
Really?
Yeah.
Knock on your window. Oh my gosh.
Yep. White Squirrel was a little more aloof, when you say. He was like, he would come by when he wanted and you'd put the food out and he'd just sit there not really looking at you or anything. But he would come by every once in a while.
Yeah. It wasn't until later on when he was getting older that White Squirrel would stop by. I think he was having a little more difficulty getting food for himself, because even getting up into trees, the high trees, was becoming a challenge for him. So he would stop by our back porch and we'd put peanuts and raisins out there and he'd munch on them for a while, and then he'd, kind of make his way off into the rest of the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about the last time you saw a white squirrel.
Yeah, the last time I saw him, I'm sure it was in 2015. Uh, he was on our front back porch and had bunched a little bit, and then he saw some other squirrels chasing each other around. I'm thinking it's a couple males, maybe that were trying to be alpha wannabes and chasing each other around, maybe to try to establish who's who in the neighborhood, especially because White Squirrel was getting pretty old. I think he even had cataracts. His eyes were kind of whitish a little bit when I saw him close up, but he climbed the tree with great difficulty so that he could watch those other squirrels kind of duking it out, so to speak. That was the last time I saw him. After that, I never saw him again.
We always hoped that we would see some baby squirrels that would be white, but none of the generations of squirrels here had that white characteristic.
Yeah, it was a very unique trait. So it was nice to have been able to have a squirrel friend.
Yeah.
Like White Squirrel.
Thank you, John and Teri, for sharing White Squirrel with us. I hope he is eating all of the acorns his little heart desires up in that giant oak tree in the sky. One thing I realized while reporting this episode is just how much squirrels are woven into our everyday lives. They're these wild animals, but we see them every day, going to work in our backyard. It makes sense that so many of us find them charming and funny, maybe even a little bit relatable sometimes. Like this sweet-toothed squirrel that broke into listener Carolyn Shalhoub's candy delivery.
So I came home and I saw the box on my porch, and when I went up the steps, I realized there was candy wrappers all around it and a great big hole in the shipping container, the cardboard box. So when I managed to get the box open, one of the pound boxes of C's, which runs about $35, was about half eaten.
Carolyn had been planning to gift the candy to friends and family for Christmas.
And it was like December 19th when this happened. And I got the box in the house and opened it and was praying that the other pound box of chocolates was not affected. And there was a little bit of a tear on the end paper. And believe me, I put a piece of tape on that and it was gifted.
Thanks to Carolyn, John, and Teri for sharing your squirrel stories with me. They have been delightfully nutty. Sorry, I had to make at least one squirrel pun. If you've got questions about Michigan's wildlife, wild places, wild people, we want to answer them for you. You can find the submission form in our show notes for this episode, or head to michiganpublic.org to the On Hand page.
That's producer April Van Buren. We also want to note that we received several emails about the black squirrel population in Battle Creek and the role John Kellogg played in introducing that population to Cereal City. Thanks for writing in about your furry friends. We do hope to tackle that piece of Michigan history in a future episode of On Hand. Hey, speaking of wildlife, we have something else we're cooking up about Michigan's state bird. Do you know what it is? Do you have ideas about what it should be? Send those stories to onhand@michiganpublic.org or submit them to the On Hand page at our website. This episode was produced by the one and only April Van Buren. Other stateside producers are Michelle Jokish-Polo, Ronia Kabansug, and Mike Blank. Mercedes Mejia is our senior producer, and Laura Weber-Davis is the executive producer. I'm your host, April Baer.
You make this audio stream, our website, and podcasts all possible. And right now, new monthly gifts will be doubled through the Resilience for the Future match. Make your gift before the end of the year at michiganpublic.org/donate.